Let's talk about social shame, the social shame system, as I call it. Let's talk about that in regards to the FBI. You see, we have a problem. We have a secret state police agency that works on behalf of the regime in power. It works against its enemies and for its friends. We are now fresh off the heels of the second Trump assassination attempt, and maybe you tuned in yesterday and you saw the FBI special agent in charge get up and say this.
I can also share with you that he was the subject of a previously closed 2019 tip to the FBI where it was alleged he was a felon in possession of a firearm. In following up on the tip, the alleged complainant was interviewed and did not verify, I repeat, did not verify providing the initial information. The FBI passed that information to local law enforcement in Honolulu.
I know you're probably saying, oh, what a shock, another known guy. And yes, we could travel down that road, but I want to talk about that man really quickly. That man, special agent in charge, the one heading up this investigation, you know what happened to him in 2023? He was forced by the powers that be to scrub his social media. Oh, wow. Must be bad. What was on there? Well, Trump hatred. He's a dyed-in-the-wool, America-hating, Trump-hating communist who despises Donald Trump with every fiber of his being. And here we are now, about 48 hours removed from yet another person trying to blow Donald Trump's head off. And the person in charge of the investigation for the FBI hates Donald Trump with the fire of 1,000 suns. By the grace of God, this happened in Florida. So Ron DeSantis has already come out and announced that because these are state charges and because it happened in Florida, that the state of Florida is going to be conducting its own separate investigation. And he even referenced the fact that, well, we can't hardly trust the feds, can we? Being as how these are the same people, the same organization trying to throw Donald Trump in federal prison. And that brings me to this, the social shame system. What is that? We've talked about it before, but what is it? Well, you should understand it's the most powerful force that determines what your culture, what your country, what your community looks like, the social shame system. It's actually not laws. Laws matter. It's not politicians or leaders, even though politicians matter, leadership matters. The social shame system is the most important thing out there. For instance, let's talk about abortion really quickly. This will sound separate, but it's not. But let's talk about abortion. Abortion's got a long, sordid history in this country. Maybe you're super pro-life like me. Maybe you're okay with murdering babies. We're not talking about that right now. But what did abortion used to be? Doesn't matter. Roe versus Wade laws, what did it used to be? It used to be shameful, not something you would brag about. If it's something you wanted to do, or maybe it's even something you've done in the past, did you brag about it? Did you talk about it? No. You found a way to sneak behind your parents' back. Or maybe your parents even helped you, but hey, don't tell your friends, don't tell the neighbors. We'll go down to the clinic and we'll murder the baby. It was powerful. The social shame portion of that was powerful. It was maybe the best pro-life thing that existed because you didn't want to be known as somebody who killed your baby. Therefore, abortions were extremely rare. The social shame system made them extremely rare. Today, through years and years and years of propaganda and cultural rot, women will go on TikTok, I just had my 5th abortion, woo, murdered it. Because the social shame system is broken. That brings us to the FBI. And this is going to be more difficult for you the older you are. And that's not at all an insult to older people. I'll explain in a moment. I'm 43. What I'm about to say will be easier for me to say, easier for me to hear than someone who's 63. It will be harder for me to say and harder for me to hear than someone who is 23. And here's why. For the longest period of time, I'm not talking about with hardcore, super informed people, which you might be, but for the longest period of time, the norms, the norms in our society, most people revered the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It is something that has been admirable. It is something where if you got into the FBI, you brag to your friends about it. You put the certificate above your desk. If your child, your son, your daughter got into the FBI, you would show up at a party that Friday in the neighborhood, practically with the bullhorn. Aiden got into the FBI, woo! Bragging about it. It's something to celebrate because it's such a revered institution and has been for so long. We can argue about whether or not it should have been, but for any length of time, for the longest period of time, it has been. But as it has slowly but surely morphed into an evil, murderous, despicable secret state police agency that works on behalf of Democrats against Republicans, we must. It is up to us. It's not just up to Republicans or Trump or this or that. It is up to you and it is up to me to change how the FBI is thought of and treated in this country. People think I'm being mean or being harsh when I say this, but believe me when I tell you it's true. The FBI agent in your neighborhood should be shunned. Don't invite him to parties. You should speak down to someone when you find out they're in the FBI. When someone tells you, hey, my name's Mark, I'm in the FBI, you should look at that person and speak to that person as if they just introduced themselves as a porn star. That's exactly how you should treat the filthy, dirty secret state police. Oh, Jesse, it's too harsh. We will know we have overcome the secret state police agency when moms and dads are ashamed to say that Aiden, Jaden, and Braden got into the FBI. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again before I show you a little video on how to treat these people, but I want you to hear me and know it well. Do you know how many people, after he took power, do you know how many people Hitler killed? Personally, I mean with his hands. 0. Mao killed plenty of people when he was younger, but according to our records, do you know how many people Mao killed once he took power in China? 0. Pol Pot, Cambodia, 0. But we can go older if you'd like. Ivan the Terrible, once he took power, how many people did he slaughter of his own countrymen? How many did he kill by his own hand? We don't know for sure, but the records look like 0. Stalin, 0. Well, how did we get all these dead bodies? If Hitler wasn't killing people, and Mao wasn't killing people, and Stalin wasn't killing people, and Ivan the Terrible, if they weren't killing people, how did we get all these dead bodies? We got all these dead bodies because each and every one of those men had a secret state police agency with guns who worked exclusively on their behalf to slaughter the people they considered their political enemies. There is nothing more dangerous in the United States of America right now than what's happening with the administrative state, namely the FBI and a couple other agencies taking their guns and aiming them at you. That's a fact. So from now on, if an FBI agent happens to show up at your door to ask you about a post you put online or ask you anything in the world, 1, what you say is lawyer. 2, handle them and speak to them exactly like this.
You see our badges.
I need to see, is your full name on that badge?
No.
I'd like to see something with your full name or I'm not going to talk to you.
I prefer you not to broadcast it.
This will be going online as soon as you walk away.
Well, all I want to do is talk to you about a post that was made, and if you happen to be the one that made the post.
I want to talk to you about you guys coming here. Say you make a salary of, I don't know what, low 100K? You guys making 6 figures? Factor in 50% expenses, overhead, maybe 100% expenses. Talking about burning a couple $100 an hour just here, let alone all the time you guys are spending to investigate something that you know is not against the law, right? Like so you're familiar with. So then why would you come?
Because we wanted to make sure that there weren't any.
No, you're coming because you're part of a regime that does this kind of thing when you know laws aren't being broken, and that's an embarrassment, man. Didn't you guys read the Constitution? Do you not believe in America? Like, how do you do your jobs and go home?
We appreciate it.
You're walking away. Because nothing we did is against the law, and you guys are heads that try to act like bullies. And I hope you go home and are embarrassed. You can't even say your name on camera because you know that what you're doing is embarrassing. You know Americans that believe in the Constitution think you're laughable. And you go home and you think about what you did today. Go home and think about it, you cowards.
Gosh, that's so well done for so many reasons. Let's bring in the man himself and talk about that. Joining me now, tech entrepreneur and a man who understands exactly how you speak to feds when they show up at your door, Jeremy Kauffman. Jeremy, look, we'll get to the actual interaction and all these things in a moment, but I can't get the words out of my head, even though he practically whispered them. I want to talk to you about a post you made online. The Federal Bureau of Investigation showed up at your home and said those words. Man, what a place we're in as a country.
It's terrifying. I wish I could say that it's unexpected, but it does feel like this is the America we've become in the last 5 or so years.
Jeremy, first, I love how you handled it because you treated them with scorn. And so many people on the right, wherever they happen to fall on the right, I don't give a crap, conservative, libertarian, nationalist, doesn't matter to me. We have this older, more reverential feel for things like the FBI. In hardcore righty circles, this won't matter, but for most normal Americans, you hear FBI and you think, oh, wow, that's really great. Parents still brag to their friends. My son, Junior's in the FBI. But it really is important we get to a place in society where people speak to the FBI exactly like you just did, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I am a right-wing libertarian. I live in New Hampshire as part of a movement for right-wing libertarians to concentrate in New Hampshire, and having that support network and culture that encourages this kind of thing was certainly a big part of what let me do this. But I absolutely agree that people need to be waking up to our current moment. We have a left-wing authoritarian power structure that has conquered an incredible amount of institutions that used to be neutral institutions. These include not just the FBI, they include a number of branches of the federal government. It includes colleges and universities, and it includes journalists. And this complex is enforcing a set of left-wing authoritarian values on the entire country, and they're being psychopathic about it, quite frankly.
Jeremy, how did we get here? I know it was a long slog to get here, but man alive, does Ron Paul, speaking of libertarianism, does Ron Paul look so smart in hindsight to those of us who didn't see during his time how quickly that domestic terrorism program that was put into place was turned on American citizens?
Well, yeah, Ron Paul was right. It's something that's said far too often. I can brag a little bit about being against the Iraq war when I was 18, and I was marching to make sure we didn't get COVID tyranny in April 2020. So, the libertarians in New Hampshire have passed these tests. But I hope that more people can wake up and not let these kinds of things happen, because I do think, hopefully it's not too late. But we are approaching a period where it will be too late. And at that point, there won't be a coming back that's clean. I'm not trying to encourage anything, but we are approaching that time, and we need to be thinking about, where is our personal line and what are we going to do about this? My answer is that people who believe in freedom and liberty still need to be making sure that they're building, personal networks. They need to be making sure that they have, friends, allies, people who share their values. If you are in a highly left-wing authoritarian local climate or local culture, I think you need to be seriously thinking about getting out.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.